The saga of CeeDee Lamb holding out has officially concluded, with CeeDee Lamb signing a 4-year, $136 million extension, according to Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero. This happened yesterday afternoon at about 2 p.m. This makes him the second highest paid wide receiver at $34 million per year, as well as the second highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. He also has a $38 million signing bonus, which is a wide receiver record, as well as, $100 million guaranteed and a wide receiver record of $38 million signing bonus, which is utterly ridiculous. But I want to know, how important do you think it was for Jerry Jones to ink this deal, put pen to paper right now, and have CeeDee Lamb extended for the next 4 years?
I think it was really important. I mean, you look at the rest of the team, I don't know. I think maybe they're mediocre when you look at the rest of their team. I think CeeDee Lamb is one of the top 3 players on the team. And you got to have those guys. He's got Dak Prescott's under contract this year. I don't think he's going to get a deal. I think they'll wait till the end of the season for his deal. Micah Parsons has got another year on his contract too. So they're just going to do CeeDee Lamb now, and I think the rest of those other 2 guys, so they're going to work out something next year or wait and see how they play. Micah Parsons, I think for sure they'll give him a contract, but Dak Prescott, I'm not so sure. We'll have to wait and see. You mentioned the highlights of the deal. It puts him only behind Justin Jefferson, who's making an average of $35 million a year. But to get a $38 million signing bonus, that's pretty nice, huh? And $100 million guaranteed? Wow. That's big money. And some of the biggest that wide receivers ever gotten, to only behind Justin Jefferson. It wasn't a smooth process. You had Jerry Jones saying he had no urgency in getting this done as early as a couple of weeks ago. And Lamb held out for the whole preseason. Got a little contentious back and forth on the social media. But I don't think, as I said, I don't think the Cowboys had any choice given their lack of wide receiver talent, for one thing. I mean, you look at the top 3 wide receivers besides CeeDee Lamb. You got Brandon Cooks, who's credible, right? He's had 684 receptions in his career. After that, it falls off dramatically. The next highest-ranked guy on the depth chart is Jalen Tolbert. He's had 24 receptions in his career. And then Jalen Brooks, who's had 6. Cavante Turpin is next at 13, and Ryan Flourney, who had never had a catch in the NFL. So, I don't think the wide receiver core looks all that strong. I think it's going to be tougher for CeeDee Lamb this year. They don't have a Galloway. He's not there. And so I think they can double on CeeDee Lamb. I think it's going to make it tougher for him. I don't think he's going to have the kind of year he had last year. And plus, they're going to be throwing the ball a lot because you look at their running backs. Zeke Elliott is the number 1 running back. He's a journeyman now.
Maybe not for long. They're looking at they're bringing in Dalvin Cook.
Oh yeah, well, maybe Dalvin Cook had played very well last year. He was cut by the Jets, and then he didn't play that much for the Ravens. So Dalvin Cook, maybe. I think they'd be wise to do that actually, because after Elliott, you've got Rico Dowdle. He has 96 carries for 385 yards in his career, and Royce Freeman, 471 rushes for 1,792 yards. So I think the Cowboys, they got some issues here. I picked them to make the playoffs this year, and I think the division they're in with Washington rebuilding and the Giants don't look very tough. There's 4 wins for them right there. The Eagles they'll probably split with. So I think they have a good chance of winning the division again this year. But getting to the Super Bowl, I don't think they got the team to do it.
It's sad because no matter what team the Cowboys have, you could always bank on them never making the Super Bowl, let alone, how about this? How about making an NFC Championship game? The odds, while on paper, yes, they're always great. Always when it comes to playoff time, it's Dak Prescott choking in some way, or a combination of Dak and the defense, which is what we saw against the Green Bay Packers. But this needed to get done. This was going to get done. The question is, why did it take this long? If you did it back in April or March, you could have had significantly less money spent on CeeDee Lamb. You would not have some of the big contracts you have now, like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Let's bring up the contracts. A.J. Brown signed an extension. Tyreek Hill reconstructed his deal. Justin Jefferson signed a massive... Like, you wouldn't have these enormous contracts that you have right now. You would be more so around the $30 million range for CD, and that would have basically set the market. That would have basically been up to Tyreek Hill. You wouldn't have $35 million contracts. You wouldn't have $34, $32 million contracts. So my only problem is that it definitely had to get done. But my issue is that it took basically to the 11th hour, the 59th minute and the 59th second. This was completely unnecessary because I do not think that CD was banking on resetting the wide receiver market. He was not going for $35.1 or $36 million to beat Justin Jefferson. I don't think that was ever reported, and I don't believe it, even if maybe there was one report out there or two reports out there about it. I wouldn't believe it. And that just shows the facts that CeeDee Lamb signed a lesser deal compared to Justin Jefferson when it comes to average annual value. But why didn't this get done a while ago? Everybody knew that you needed to sign CeeDee Lamb because I've said on the show before, it's CeeDee Lamb, massive gap, Brandon Cooks. That's your 1-2 punch. Just go in your own division. How about A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith? Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm going to say I'm going to include tight ends. Amon-Ra St. Brown as well as Sam Laporta. Those two receiver threats, massive. You can even add Dallas Goedert in there if you want to for the Eagles. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. I can keep going on and on. The Cowboys don't have that. So it's either you piss off CD, and I think honestly, if you did not sign him by the end of this week, we would not see him for X amount of weeks until this deal got signed. I think it would have been a Chris Jones situation where he actually holds out and loses game checks because he's not showing up because he's not getting what he's paid. So this needed to get done. It did not need to wait until the 11th hour. It was completely unnecessary. You have Jerry Jones now taking shots at the media because people are questioning his GM skills. I wonder why. But this was completely easy to call. And it's another example. Just keep adding it to the Cowboys players taking advantage of Jerry Jones being conservative and then maximizing on that deficit that Jerry Jones clearly has in signing players and getting more money than what you could have gotten if Jerry Jones just wised up a little bit and signed you months ago.
So you question Jerry Jones's GM abilities?
100% I do.
Okay, well, he doesn't. Okay?
Of course he doesn't.
And he was questioned on it, and he lost it. And he said, I've done it all. He said, so I have an inordinate amount of confidence that blank, whoops, if anybody can figure it out, how to get this done, I can figure it out how to get it done. I've been there every which way from Sunday, and I have busted my rear end a bunch. There's nobody living that's out cutting and shooting that can't give you a bunch of times they busted their rear end. So hell no,
button, by the way.
There's nobody that could come in here and do all of the contracts, be the GM any better than I can. So he feels pretty confident in himself. He's 81 years old. He bought the team for $150 million. It's worth $9 billion now.
Right.
So what do you think matters most to him? The fact that he hasn't won a Super Bowl in 30 years now, or the fact that the team's worth $9 billion and he paid $150 million for it? And which means more to him?
I think Jerry Jones intertwining being an owner and being a general manager, because the ownership and the way you promote your product, that's where you get the $9 billion valuation from.
He's done a pretty good job there.
Because when it comes to success of your NFL team, though, if you're talking about the legitimate success on the field as an NFL team, where has that been? Yes, you've won 12 games at least in the past 3 seasons. When it comes down to it, when it matters the most, you have guys who are the youngest team in the NFL beating the crap out of you. You have Jimmy Garoppolo beating the crap out of you.
Yeah. Well, he went on to say,
of course he did.
Plus, I'm where the buck stops. He said, when it blank up, I got to cover it. And so there you can't give anybody enough. Can't give. There's nobody that can do it. The reason I don't let somebody else be the GM is because I don't have anybody that I will let do it to actually do it right. And they're going to have to come to me because I know where it is that you're going to pay for it. I'm not sure I understand all of what he said there, but he feels
it's a
very
Jerry Jones
confident.
ramble. It's a Jerry Jones ramble. That's all it is. To me, no surprise whatsoever. And this will happen. Dak Prescott will hold. Micah Parsons will hold unless Jerry Jones thinks about it and says, well, what are my options? I have to reset with Dak Prescott, or I have to reset with one of the best edge rushers in the NFL, with Micah Parsons. And by the way, this is where it gets a bit interesting, because there's a chance, based on valuations, that's all it is, estimated valuations of these players, that the Cowboys would be spending 68% of their cap space on 3 players. If Dak gets the estimated $60 million that everybody's talking about, Micah right now is worth about $30 million per year, and CeeDee he got a massive extension. The Dallas Cowboys would be spending nearly 70% of all cap space on 3 players.
Well, that's a lot.
That's called
That's called not being able to even get to the playoffs, I think. And when you do that, you can't do that. You can't spend almost 70% of your cap space.
Dak Prescott ain't going to take another pay cut. Micah Parsons, this is going to be his first big contract. CeeDee Lamb, this was his first big contract. So the chances those players take less, and yes, while CeeDee didn't take, he didn't reset the market, he still took basically the highest market value you can, 34 compared to $35 million. Micah's worth about $30.5 million. Dak's about to break the QB market at 60.
Yeah, well, those guys will get those contracts, and then they'll have to be restructured if they want to have any players around them that can help them get to the playoffs. That's what I think will happen.
You would need to hit on draft after draft. You would need Puka Nacua consistently on both sides of the field, basically. You would need to keep hitting on draft picks and draft picks consistently for several years in order for that 68% allocated to 3 players to at least be acceptable. Because you cannot find any large... How about this? You're not even spending $68 million on those 3 players now, and you can't find massive amounts of success when it matters. How about when you actually do it, or I guess if you do it? The chances of you finding success when it comes to playoff wins and Super Bowls is essentially 0. Because if you can't do it now, when you're not paying 68% of your cap space on 3 players, how can you if you do that?
I don't know. I don't think you can.
You can't.
I don't think you can.
You can't. It's basically impossible. I think it would be unprecedented for any one team, for 3 players to be worth 68% of all available cash you could spend and somehow make a deep playoff run. It would be completely brand new in the minds of everybody, analysts, reporters, people around the NFL, executives. It would change everything if the Cowboys could do that. I can't see it happening, and that's why I think that there is a higher likelihood day to day that Dak Prescott's looking like, well, I can move on, and I'm banking on. If it does turn out to be that this team is willing to pay the money, I still love the Seattle Seahawks. I really like the Seahawks with Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
I don't think they pay him the $60 million, but if they do,
I don't think it's going to happen because they thought maybe Trey Lance would be the man in the wings waiting to take over for Dak Prescott. He threw 5 interceptions in the last preseason game. Yep. I think that killed his chances. I don't think the Cowboys are going to take that kind of risk on him, and it's too bad. I kind of like Trey Lance. I was kind of hoping
you're a massive fan of Trey Lance.
I was hoping he would come through and prove the 49ers wrong, but I think he kind of proved them right in that last preseason game. 5 interceptions. Yeah. Come on.
Well, think about it, because he kept improving. He had a great drive late in the second week against the Raiders, and he basically did 1 step forward, 2 steps back, essentially. You want it the other way. You want 2 steps forward.
You took 5 steps back.
Yeah, it seems like that. But yeah, no, I think the Trey Lance experiment, I still think, I don't have it up, but I would assume, based on just all the reports, that Cooper Rush is still quarterback 2.
Sure looks like it.
Which then would mean that the big experiment is essentially
a bust.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll just check for posterity, and Cooper Rush is still listed as the backup quarterback to Dak Prescott.
They should have pulled him after. They shouldn't have let him play so long. They should have pulled him, and then at least they would have some trade value maybe, but now I don't think he's worth anything. I don't think he's worth much of anything now.
I think that when it comes with Trey Lance, he's super raw. He's been raw. You need the snaps. You needed to have him out there taking those
he
reps.
was missing
Good
receivers badly. I saw some of those interceptions he threw were just what was he thinking about?
It was bad decision making, but I think that he needs it regardless if it's good or bad, because he already got traded for a 4th round pick. You're not going to get a 4th round pick for him no matter what you do, because he's already been traded. And the Dolphins traded the 49ers traded 3 first round picks just to get Trey Lance and traded him away within 2-3 years. So it's just unfortunate that it came to that. But you know what? It's good. CeeDee Lamb got his money. Now it's up to Dak. It's up to Ayuk now. It's up to Micah Parsons. It's up to a lot of guys now. Jamar Chase is looking for an extension as well. T. Higgins
He's got 2
also
more
wants to get
years.
paid.
He's got 2 more years left on his contract.
Jamar Chase is holding out, and he's in year 3. He's looking to get paid now in year 3. Yet, meanwhile, he has a 5th-year option that I believe the Bengals accepted. So he's way, way too early. But yet he's still holding out, although he came back for the first practice recently.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.